So you in for a crap day?
No, don't think so. Any day with you is a good day, Mike.
Any day with me to start the day is a good day, but by the time you get to Greenwald and .com tonight, what do you think's going to happen?
Sound and light show. Look, in the end, Greenwald's going to turn up. He'll have huge, PowerPoints and presentations, and he'll make this case about mass surveillance. The problem he's got wrong is it was a cyber protection business plan that never actually even got to us. It never took place, so then he'll go off onto something else and he'll try and bamboozle people. But look, the simple thing with GCSB is that it's a foreign intelligence agency. Its domestic work is very narrow. It can't undertake mass anything without the capability, and it doesn't have the capability. So he's just plain wrong. But that was the problem, you see, when you hack into someone's information and then you kind of have to leave the organisation in a hurry. You get part of it, but you don't get all of it.
Right. Has anybody been spying on anybody anywhere in a mass fashion?
Well, do you mean, do we do mass... We don't do mass surveillance on New Zealanders. GCSB never has. And
Does
SIS
anybody?
No, SIS doesn't.
Do the Americans?
Not as far as I'm aware.
Would you be surprised if they did?
Highly surprised. But
Germans were surprised?
Yeah, I mean, I think first thing to understand is I'm not responsible for the NSA or what happens in Singapore or what happens around the world. But it's very, very unlikely. There's a bit of a, I suppose I can say this, there's a bit of an informal agreement that we don't spy on each other. So it's very unlikely. But the Americans have different collection rules. So they have different rules and they're allowed to do different things. But every country has to sit within its own thing. But the one important point is we don't use our partners to circumvent the law. So we can't go out there and say, it's against GCSB's law to go and do this thing domestically and then use NSA to go and do it with New Zealand. And the other thing that I suspect Greenwald doesn't understand is that our law is quite specific. So, for instance, we can't just go and get GCSB to go to something that NSA's got. And all of that is overseen by the Inspector General. And it's been there for a very long time, from Helen Clark to whoever. So, in the end, what he'll try and do tonight, because you've got to remember why he's here. I mean, let's understand it. .com is trying to save .com's butt. So he's brought in, and it's a reasonably large one, and so he's brought in all of these people, hasn't he? And so he's brought in 3 little butts to try and save his butt, and it won't work, but they'll say and do anything, and they'll bamboozle people, and for 2 days I'll be saying he's wrong and I'm right.
Well,
and some people
that's the difficulty in the campaign. Will, at the end of it all, it be clear, because your statements are unequivocal, you've done nothing wrong, there is nothing to see here that is wrong. Will we all understand that in a really simple way?
Yep, but the point is, it won't stop him saying stuff. I mean, in the end, he says lots of things. I can't stop him. He says, I knew the guy. Well, we've turned our office inside out. To give you an example, he always said he was going to go to court. And when he went to court, he would demonstrate that I knew the guy before the raid. Who would care anyway? If I could find a piece of paper that showed me, I'd just bring it out. But anyway, he's filed all his court documents, and guess what? There's nothing there.
Right.
So whatever he presents tonight, he's so confident he can't bring it to court, but in his sound and light show tonight, he'll have it. So that's what you're dealing with. You're dealing with a guy who is basically interested in Kim Dotcom. And so we've got an election, which is about New Zealanders, being heavily influenced by a guy who cares about himself and not being extradited to the United States. And, look, it's... there's nothing I can do about that, but in the end, New Zealanders have to decide what they want to dominate their election and their government.
Hand on heart.
I'm just in the middle of it.
Hand on heart. You've done nothing wrong, nothing to be ashamed of or embarrassed about, nothing that between now and the end of the week will cost you the election.
You mean in terms of mass surveillance and the likes?
In terms of Greenwald, .com,
no,
Hollywood moguls, spying, anything.
So there's... Absolutely unequivocally, there's never been mass surveillance undertaken by GCSB against New Zealanders. To the best of my knowledge, we never knew this guy before the day I was briefed, which was, I think, the 19th of January 2012. And in fact, when the Solicitor General came over to tell me, the first thing he said to me, he said, well, we're undertaking a raid tomorrow. I mean, all this in the end will come public, it's in the court documents, but I said to him, what's the name of the person? He said, Kim Dotcom. And I said, is he Korean? I mean, it's a reasonable question, isn't it? And he said, he's German. And I said, what sort of bloody person calls themselves Kim Dotcom? And they told me, they said, look, He's highly sophisticated. Don't go and Google him and find out. He'll know that you're looking at him.
All right.
Now, whether he could or not, I don't know. But the point is, there was nothing to demonstrate at the time that I'd ever heard of him. And we went out there and we have turned up every document, everything that we can find in my office. The other thing that's sort of slightly a problem for me, I think, is the head of the GCSB and SIS had never heard of Kim Dotcom prior to the raid. So it's impossible that they briefed me. I probably shouldn't tell you all this stuff, but they have anyway now, too late. But they didn't know the guy.